Have you been handed an ongoing project that you didn't start and told that it's now yours to manage? If so, this episode is for you. Welcome to Better Projects Today, the bite-sized project management podcast helping you to bridge theory and practice in your own work to create better teams, better results, and better projects today. I'm Tyler Norman, and I bring 15 years of experience as a global program leader and mentor. Before we start, I'd like to thank Paige for today's topic as she reached out with a question on LinkedIn. If you'd like to provide a topic or question for a future episode, feel free to comment below or reach out directly. Paraphrasing a bit for context and confidentiality, Paige question reads, could you do another episode or maybe provide some insight on how to handle being thrown into the middle of a project and not knowing where to begin? I've been put in the middle of 7 projects for which there was no clear guidance on where we are or where we're going. My boss says I'm in the learning stage, but I feel like I don't know where my lines are. I know he should be helping me more, but he has his own things to deal with. I'm part of meetings and I am just grasping at straws trying to figure it all out. Is this normal? Do you have any advice? Great question, and a very common question, Paige. In a perfect world, you would be involved at the beginning of a project, and for those projects that you get brought into midstream, they'd have great documentation, perfect charters, updates along the way, and you'd be able to step in, do some reading. Unfortunately, that's not how things work in reality. This is something that early in my career when I worked in construction project management would happen all the time. You'd have a project manager would leave for another role, a project would get a little bit challenging and you'd need to pull in additional help. Or sometimes, a customer would just request that a new PM be brought in. This is a really common thing, and I developed a little bit of a specialty for getting involved with troubled projects. While this can be a lot of fun if done right, and it's an opportunity to learn, this is a really big challenge, and the imposter syndrome becomes very real when you're pulled into a situation where everyone else seems to know what needs to be done other than you, and oh, by the way, you're now in charge. But don't worry, you've got this, and I'll provide some guidelines here that you can apply for your specific context to take ownership of the project without losing your mind in the process. First things first, take a breath. Remember that no one expects you to learn everything in the first couple days. It's really easy to feel pressure to dive in, hit the ground running, make big changes, take defiant action, but taking the time to understand the current context and the details of the project is absolutely crucial. You don't need to have all the answers on day one, and sometimes making those fast decisions without understanding full context can backfire later on. Early on, focus on observing. Give yourself the grace to learn and process information. Take a breath. Next, seek mentorship from other project managers or leaders. You don't have to go into this alone. Nobody expects you to hole off by yourself and somehow figure it out. In every organization, there's a wealth of knowledge, and you may have other project management peers. There may be folks involved in the project. Ask questions, share your concerns, ask for advice on navigating the team or the project's existing dynamics. One blessing when you're brand new to a project is you can ask all the dumb questions in the world and you're just new. Nobody's going to judge you for that. So find folks that are familiar with the team's strengths, weaknesses, nuances, and try to pull insights out of them with good questions that'll help shorten your learning curve. Next, identify the key players for your project. When you join a project midstream, it's really essential to figure out quickly who are the key people that are going to keep this project moving forward, are essential to its performance, so on and so forth. One spoiler alert here is it's not always the most senior or the most visible people. The key players are often those people that kind of fly under the radar but have all the influence, the expertise, the informal sway over the direction of the project. See what you can do to figure out who those people are as quickly as possible. Next, prioritize understanding the project's key information. When you step in midway, if there's a charter that's completed and it's up to date and there's good documentation, awesome. Go to that, do some learning, ask some questions. What you may find, especially if there's not been a project manager involved for some time on the project or ever, is that a charter was never developed. With that in mind, this is a great place to start adding value quickly in conjunction with your learning. Set about creating a simple charter, maybe just a one pager, or if you've ever heard the term A4, get on paper who's the project sponsor, what are the key objectives of the project, the goals, the alignment with organizational strategy, what are the scope and deliverables. If you've got milestone delivery dates or a roadmap, that's great. Who are the key team members? Who's on the team? What roles do they play? RACI diagram if you're able to find it or produce it. And then what's the current status? And you'll notice current status was listed last. That was a purposeful decision. Often when we jump in, the first thing we want to know is what's the current status? What's everybody working on right now? But without all that other information that came first, the current status really doesn't mean that much. So if you take the time to go through these components in detail, you'll be able to share it with the team and get alignment if it didn't already exist. And B, you'll be better equipped to start making good decisions and manage the project holistically. Next, communicate what you know and what you don't know. As you get up to speed, it's essential to communicate openly with your stakeholders. I want to repeat, no one expects you to know everything on day one, but what they do expect is that you're learning over time and that you communicate with honesty and transparency. It's helpful to share what you know, but also share willingly when you're learning something. This is something that I use a lot when I get involved in a new project. Is I'll use phrases to the effect of, I'm learning quickly, but I can't get it all in one day. Give me some time and I'll get there. Another version of this is, I've learned about this. You've seen that I've added value there. I need some leeway on this topic. I'll get there in the next couple weeks. Be open, be transparent. Nobody expects you to grovel, but it can be helpful to communicate in a way that it's just transparent. You'll garner respect, trust. People will, if you identify what you don't know, when you speak up on things you do know, that'll carry more weight. Next, find ways to add value as you learn. While you're learning the ropes, look for opportunity to add value along the way. This doesn't mean taking on things that shouldn't be your role or that aren't aligned with your role, but it is important that you find ways to add value in small efforts as you learn. A good example of this is when I get involved in a new project, there's often meetings being led by folks that aren't the project manager and maybe want to dump it to you. Day one, you can say, why don't you keep that meeting, but let me start taking notes and action items, and I'll start pulling those into an overall task log and reflect that on the schedule. That's a small contribution. You don't need all the context in the world to take notes and action items, but you can take that off of the person's plate, or if it wasn't being done, you can start to track tasks that come out of meetings. Be careful here. If you can find ways to add value in small ways along the way, you can learn the project and you can garner respect and trust through demonstrating value. Lastly, on that note of adding value, maintain progress towards full ownership of the project. One thing I advise whenever I mentor folks that have been brought in on a project they didn't start is to develop a roadmap from where they are today to total ownership of the project and include milestone delivery dates. Some examples may be, week one, you're going to focus on establishing relationships and you're going to start taking action items from the meetings. Week two, you're going to take ownership of a regularly occurring meeting or two. After a month, you're going to start preparing the executive updates, but they'll still be delivered by the folks that have to this point. At the end of 2 months, you're going to be fully preparing, delivering, and guiding the team on the executive updates. After 3 months, you've taken ownership of all of the meetings associated with the project and you have full ownership. Purely an example, but hopefully what I'm communicating comes through there, that you need to be demonstrating progress. If you are making constant progress, your sponsor, your team members, they're going to work with you there. They're going to see, they're going to understand that you're not going to do it all in one day. One risk here that I often see, especially if folks get involved and start taking random action without understanding the full project, is you'll hit a point where you're adding value in some ways, but then you plateau and you never quite get to that full ownership. Develop a roadmap for yourself. If you're getting any pushback or if people are concerned that you're not going fast enough, work with them on the roadmap. Show them I can't do it all in one day, but what I can do is demonstrate progress over time and get their feedback on the roadmap. In conclusion, leading a project you didn't start is really hard, but it's also a great opportunity to showcase skills, build new ones, learn new things, and potentially gain a lot of respect from those in your org as you were able to come in and right a ship that was sometimes headed a bad direction. That brings us to the end of the episode. If you have a topic or a question you'd like to see addressed in future episodes, leave a comment below or reach out directly. Hope you've enjoyed this episode.